Welcome to Resilience Plus Rise, the podcast where resilience is not just a concept, but a lived experience. I'm your host, Thomas Scaria, a resilience coach, an ultramarathoner, and a relentless believer in the human spirit's ability to rise. This podcast is a companion to my book, Resilience Plus Rise 26.2 Transformative Miles to Unleash Your Marathon of Life Mindset. Each episode is a raw, unfiltered dive into the story of those who have faced life's hardest battles and emerged stronger. Today, I have the privilege of having Kara Kalin back on my show. She's the CEO of Shift Change, a very much a dynamic coaching platform. She's a mental performance specialist. She's also an EMDR therapist. Apart from being Team Canada coach and a clinical counselor, many different hats. She has got her roots as a national level athlete and, as I mentioned, a coach for Canada national team. She has spent decades in the dynamics of resilience, focus, and team culture. And that's how Shift Change comes up. So without spending more time, Kara, welcome to Resilience Plus Rise, the podcast.
Thank you so much. So good to be here with you.
Pleasure. So Kara, for the people who have not been aware about what Shift Change is about, I have this element which says is that from our deepest of wound comes our deepest of purpose. And I've known that Shift Change, you have held it so deeply within your own self because you believe that it can happen. But was there something that worked towards in making Shift Change a reality or becoming a purpose of your journey?
Yeah. Well, it was November 12th, 1996. And I was at the Kinsman Sport Aquatic Center in Edmonton, Alberta. Mm-hmm. And just for a moment, imagine that, I'm 12 years old. The air is warm and wet. There's, the smell of chlorine is there. And I'm at my very first competition as a synchronized swimming athlete. And I'm away from home. And, I'm my red and purple sequin suit, and I am so excited and terrified at the same time. And on this day, when I dove in the water, I almost drowned. And I came up out of the water and I was coughing and spitting and all of the things. And somehow I figured out how to hop back under and join my team and finish. And when I swam to the edge of the pool and got out, I was so proud on one hand, but terrified in the other. And I was terrified because I wanted my coach to see this devastation that had happened to me, this fear that I, had just choked and had almost drowned. And, I walked over to her, and in front of hundreds of people, she screamed at me. And it was the most devastating moment of my life, not only because I had almost drowned, but because I was publicly shamed in front of a whole bunch of people. And, back then, you didn't challenge your coaches. You didn't talk back. You didn't have the right to stand up for yourself. And so I swallowed it. And my mom hired the top sports psychologist in Calgary at that time, an incredible man by the name of Pat Davis. He worked with me for 6 months because after that moment, I developed a fear of holding my breath. And so every time I would dive into the water, I would feel panic in my chest. And this thought that would come to me every single time I dove in was, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. And so he worked with me for 6 months to try and override this fear that I had. And the story goes that what we know now is that you can't out-talk and out-think trauma. And I spent the next couple of years trying to outthink the panic that showed up in my chest. And eventually the routines got harder and the pressure got greater, and I quit. And I then made a decision that I was going to go and be a coach in the world, and I was going to be a coach that wasn't like the coach I had. And so that was the beginning of purpose. It was like, I'm going to go and do the thing that I didn't have done for me, which was I want to believe in the athletes that come to me. I want to encourage them. I want to support them. I want to have what I didn't have. I wanted to be that. And that guided me to decades of coaching. The problem is that the shock in my chest, it never left.
Oh, okay.
And so what that eventually looked like is that every moment I had to go into a room where I was afraid that I wasn't good enough. Because if I go back to that 12-year-old girl, a seed planted on that day, which was, I'm not good enough.
Oh, yes.
And so then every moment after that, I had made a decision. I had to prove myself to everyone around me. And so that girl spent decades of her life trying to prove herself to everyone around her. And it just meant that the bigger the rooms and the more I felt like I had to do that, the more anxiety would come into my chest, the more I would feel it. And it became about surviving those moments, not enjoying them or thriving in them, right? It was, oh my gosh, I can't just wait until this thing is over, because then I'll be able to relax, or then I'll be able to enjoy the moment. And it wasn't until 2020 when I got pregnant with twins, and I say the universe took me out, and it forced me to come into my body, which was a place that I had spent many years trying to escape. And that process was a really profound one, because in my journey of learning that this seed of not good enough had been planted, that it was still operating in the background of my mind, I was given a choice to either look at it and go beneath the surface and do some work processing it, or continue to run. But I couldn't run, because now I had 4 babies under the age of 5 during a pandemic. There was no running from that, right? And so I surrendered there. But in the surrender of that and the unpacking of all of the decades of repressed, things, shift change was shown to me. And it's a long story of that, but the most important piece of it is that my grandmothers came to me in a dream, and they showed me the vision for this business.
Okay.
And when they showed it to me, I said, that is way too big. I cannot do that thing. And I kept having the dream, and I kept having the dream, and I kept having the dream, until finally I just said, fine, show me how to do it. Like, I don't, at that time, my mind was, I don't know how to build a business. Like, I'm a coach. I'm a therapist. I'm not a business major. Like, what do I know about that? But the beautiful thing about the journey is that I didn't need to know it, because I just needed to take the next step that I was shown, and the next step. And so it eventually was revealed to me and through sitting in the morning and meditating and journaling and all those, and the EMDR processing that I was doing. Every time I went into a room and processed something really deep and painful, another pearl of wisdom was offered. And it was almost like a breadcrumb of pearls that were being left along the way, that every time I went in and sat with something really difficult, I was gifted this beautiful seed that then showed me where to go next, and showed me where to go next. And ultimately, shift change is the platform that 12-year-old girl didn't have. And if I had, it would have changed my life.
Congratulations on taking on that particular challenge, because then I have known through quite a bit of testimonies, etc. There are a lot of people who have been impacted in a positive way, what you have been doing. And specifically, again, with your background as a coach, and for the Team Canada and the different integrities. And but in the in the recent past, you have gone into some projects which is really creating, it's not just few people, but it's impacting the community. Would you want to say something about that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting to come back and sit with you, because as you reminded me where I was a year and a half ago, I hadn't yet had the door open into a major police department. And so I guess it's been over a year now that I was introduced to Dr. Lisa Kitt and Sergeant Andrea Martins, and they are both, Dr. Lisa Kitt is a lead psychologist for the Surrey Police, and Sergeant Andrea Martins is, runs the wellness programming over there, and both incredible women, and also committed to bringing change into not only into the department, but into the culture, into, helping the humans that they work with know that they are cared for. And so I was introduced to them and pitched them the business. And so, they said, okay, let's do it. And so we started running, EMDR. There's many different protocols that are out in the world, but the protocol that we use at Shift Change is a recent event protocol. And that protocol is specifically to, help process trauma immediately after it's happened. So this is not for historical types of trauma, although there's protocols for that. Mm-hmm. This specific one is to treat anything that's happened. And so basically we were, the two of them, after they had critical incidents in the department, we would get in touch, we would run people through a session immediately after that incident. And then we started to collect data. And we started to get feedback and testimonials. And, it was really incredible because here we are in a space where, typically the testimonials of people, they didn't even know what EMDR was. They would not have been help-seeking humans where they would traditionally go into therapy settings. These are the humans that have been carrying so much. They're so armored and they're the protectors out in the world, but they haven't typically had these types of things offered. And so these are the people that started to show up and go through our sessions and be our proof that we can do this differently. And so after a year of that, Sergeant Andrea Martins and Dr. Lisa Kitt, we were like, pushing a boulder up a mountain because you're bringing something different into the world. And eventually we were able to convert the Shift Change sessions to be running once a week within the department. And so, the organization, thank you. The organization supports their people by doing it. And, we're going to continue to learn and we're going to continue to grow as the service, is out there and moving. And, I think I said to Andrea, the most incredible piece is that when she officially announced it to the department, we had ran almost 100 people in that pilot through. And when she announced it, it was a Monday morning, and within an hour, 50 people had signed up within 1 hour. And those 50 people were not of the 100 people that had already tried it. Wow. And so that's an incredible feat, right? Because when I was speaking to you before, doing this work, people have to trust that it's a safe place to come. They have to trust that there's people that are out in the department or in their organization that have tried it and found it to be helpful. And it took us time to be able to build that trust and to build that rapport. And I would say we're continuing to build it. But, you said something at the beginning that it made me feel a little bit emotional. And that was talking about being a coach, but about teams, right? And this has been an incredibly dynamic team. It hasn't just been me. It's been a unified mission, and not only just the three of us, but the other incredible folks inside Surrey Police who have been advocates to bring this forward. And so we get to lead the way, doing something different and innovative. And it is my hope that in 1 year from now, if you talk to me again, that I can tell you that we're going to be across the province and eventually across Canada. Ultimately
best wishes on that. But Kara, for the uninitiated, and in fact last time you had spoken a little about EMDR, that is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. But how would you explain it to the listeners who may not be aware about this terminology?
Yeah.
If you have to just explain it in a very simple terms, what would that be?
I have spent the year trying to simplify the way of describing this. Let me tell you. So, okay, here's what we know. You can't out-talk and you can't out-think trauma. When something stressful or traumatic happens to us, that experience gets imprinted in the right hemisphere of the brain.
Okay.
And we have two hemispheres, right brain
And the left brain.
Left brain. And they don't talk. And when something traumatic happens, there's this disconnect between both hemispheres. So the left brain, as most of us have been taught to outthink the things that have happened to us, a lot of us have lots of really good analytical stuff that the brain tries to make sense. But the right side is the side that holds the memory, okay, the imprint, but it's a small piece of it. It's not the whole picture. It's just a small piece. And that creates the physiological sensations associated with the trauma. Okay.
Okay.
So if we go back to my example, when I almost drowned, that experience got locked in my chest. And when I think about trauma, you know, there's a lot of people that say, well, I haven't had trauma, or mine's not as bad as that person. We actually call that comparative suffering, right? People will compare their suffering to others. But what I like people to hear me say is that when that gets imprinted, I'm almost certain, I don't know this for sure, but I'm almost certain that when we experience shock, the body goes, and we hold our breath. And that experience gets locked inside of our body. And it stays there until we allow it to be processed. And so what EMDR does is it brings the stuck trauma from the right side and it moves it to the left side. Now, the left side is the side that helps us make sense. So we want this experience to come to the left side because we only see the small devastating moment. We don't see that we're safe now. So we stay stuck in the unsafe.
Okay.
And the body continues to be charged. So when we have a seed that gets planted, if I say my not good enough seed, every time from the time I was 12 until I was 40, every time that seed got touched, it built a different channel of association in my brain. So I had all these examples in the world of how I wasn't good enough. Okay. When we do bilateral tapping. So the thing about EMDR is if you Google search it, you're going to see it's about the eyes. And that's how it originated. Okay. Dr. Francine Shapiro created the protocol using fingers, and people would use their eyes, and they still do this, to go back and forth. And that's how it started. But then what happened is that they started to research how effective this was with veterans and military. And they started to see that it was so effective to treating PTSD that other people who were in humanitarian efforts then discovered that if your eyes are closed and you're bilaterally tapping, your eyes are still moving from right to left. So you no longer need to use the eye movement with the fingers. And what does that mean? It means we can treat hundreds of people at a time as opposed to one at a time. And so this protocol got brought into a kinesthetic body tapping to then be deployed in mass casualties. So, you know, wars and tsunamis and earthquakes, the literature is profound, and I can do a link. There's over 100 peer-reviewed articles on just this recent event protocol, over 100. And that's because Dr. Nacho Ahiro created the protocol, and then he leads it into all these crisis zones. And so what Shift Change did is, once I learned about it and I got trained in it and I brought it home, I tried to deploy it with my clients, because I thought, oh my gosh, if I could help more than one person at a time, how incredible would that be? But the problem was that, who did I work with? I worked with high performers. I worked with people that didn't want to see them cry, or people
Brilliant.
that didn't want to show weakness, or people that felt like that was not strong, or whatever the story was. And so when I initially tried to do it, I was just being hit with so much resistance until a client of mine said, well, find a way to do it anonymously. And I thought, but that's not what therapy is. We're supposed to be together in this room. And he was like, no one's going to come. Not these kind of people. And that's when I realized he was right. Because if you had asked me as a high-performing Team Canada coach to sit in a room with a whole bunch of people that my nervous system didn't feel safe around, would I want to start tapping and show my tears? Heck no. I wouldn't have been in that room either, right? So Shift Change took the protocol from Dr. Nacho Hiro, and we just changed the delivery system. And so we created what we call the Shift method. And our method is delivered virtually and anonymously. And guess what? People come because if they feel safe, they're not worried about people seeing them. They're not worried about how loud they're crying because they're muted. Because also in this protocol, it's a non-verbal protocol. So I don't need to know why people are in my room. We just guide their brain to process the experience. Now, the interesting thing about tapping is that not only do you move stuck trauma from right side to left side, but your nervous system gets desensitized. So what how I explain this is, if I go back to me, that stuck trauma in my chest was holding on. And what it looks like as a practitioner, and this is why I'm convinced this is what it does, is because when I watch people reprocess what they're holding, it's almost like when you see someone being defibrillated and all of a sudden they went from not breathing to like, and they breathe again. That's what I see. I see people come into a room holding, they start tapping, and all of a sudden you see breath come back into the body. You see the nervous system release, put down. And so the charge, that charge that's in the chest, it gets sucked out of the body, which allows the breath to return to the body. Yeah. And you know what? The most fascinating thing is that I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about the sessions as a practitioner, because a lot of people said to me, Kara, people come to work with you. Like, they're not going to want to do the group stuff. They want to do it with you. And I was like, yeah, okay. But when I started doing it and people weren't talking, and I got to watch people put down whatever they were holding, like, I still get emotional thinking about it, because when you see a room of people put down that, I don't need to hear a word. You have this energetic feeling of release of a whole group of people. It is so powerful and magical. And there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. Yeah.
So guys, if this has got your attention, and of course you can research about EMDR, but if there's something that you want to do something further, reach out to Kara. I will be putting out her details down in my notes below over here, and it could be anonymous. You don't have to say you have to come through me. Reach out. Perhaps that could be an answer. And then what has been mentioned is that it could be done virtually also. You could be in any part of the world, and you could just find out what time suits you and work along with it. Thank you for that, Kara. Just being mindful of the time. Now that you have been in the space of being a therapist, you have been a coach, you're working specifically from Shift Change. But if there are 2 or 3 points that comes to your mind that can help people to elevate themselves from being small and just growing further, what would those points be?
I guess I would say that often people have an idea that if they go back and unpack the past, that it's going to take them out, And what I would say to people is that you don't need to unpack it all at once. but the magic is going back to the parts of us that felt small, grabbing them by the hand and bringing them along for the ride. And it requires a little bit of work. Like, it's not easy. And I think anything that's easy is not worthwhile. And so
exactly,
right?
Exactly, yeah.
And so I guess, you know, I could sort of come into the world now and share different stories. And the reason is because I want people to know that light is on the other side of it. Is it fun? No, it's not fun. But when you are willing to surrender and just embrace that there might be some things that maybe you're not aware of that are blocking or getting in your way, that when you discover what they are and sit with them, it is a really profound experience. And, you know, in Shift Change, the sessions that we run, we just launched a new session on Sundays called the Sunday Reset. And it's just a space for people to come and dip their toe in the water. Just come and try it. You don't have to open anything. You don't have to, you know, unpack your life. But here's a 90 minutes. Come just try it on.
Is this there on your website, Shift Change?
Yeah, we actually just launched the Sunday Reset. It's going to be running bi-monthly. Anyone can sign up and do it. It's anonymous. There'll be music. Bring your journal. Sunday night before the weekday starts. And when you tap, your brain and your body offer you some wisdom. And you know, you don't know what's waiting for you.
Wonderful. Guys, this is an amazing opportunity. Try it out. If you still feel something is saying you're not enough, then maybe you got to explore something more. But then if you feel that there is some light which is being shown from the other side of the tunnel, it's an opportunity. So, Kara, as a last thought, do you want to say anything to the audience?
You know, I want to thank you, because, you know, a year ago when you reached out to me, it was at a time where I was just trusting that whoever was coming on my journey to talk with me and listen. So I want to thank you for being one of those people that you were so gracious with gifting a platform for me to speak and to talk with me. And I feel really grateful for that. So thank you for doing what you do and allowing me to be here and share the work that I'm doing. I'm very honored.
Thank you so very much, Kara. That's a amazingly huge. I don't even see it as a compliment. It's a beautiful element of joy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you.